The train's whistle pierced the dusty air of Willow Creek, Montana, a sound that jolted Clara Hensley's heart like a thunderclap. She stood on the weathered platform, clutching her shawl against the biting autumn wind, her eyes scanning the horizon for a man she'd never met. The crowd around her buzzed with whispers, townsfolk who'd come to gawk at the widow who'd ordered a husband through a newspaper ad. Clara's cheeks burned, but she held her chin high. She wasn't here for their judgment. She was here for a chance at something more than loneliness. Little did she know, the man stepping off that train, tattered and weary, would change her life forever, and she'd change as Clara was no stranger to loss. At 32, she'd buried her husband, Thomas, 3 years prior, after a fever took him in the night. The farm they'd built together, with its sprawling fields and cozy cabin, had become a hollow reminder of what was gone. Her hands were calloused from working the land alone, her heart heavy from nights spent staring at an empty chair by the fire. The townsfolk pitied her, but pity didn't plow fields or mend fences. Desperation had driven her to place the ad, widow, 32, seeks kind, hard-working man for marriage and partnership on Montana farm. She hadn't expected many replies, but one letter, scrawled in a shaky hand, had caught her eye. His name was Elias Kane, a drifter from back east, promising loyalty and labor in exchange for a home. His words were simple but earnest, and something in them stirred her. She'd sent for him, and now, here she was, waiting as the train doors creaked open, and passengers spilled out, merchants in fine coats, families with bundled children, a preacher clutching his Bible. Then came Elias. He was impossible to miss, not because he stood out, but because he didn't. His coat was threadbare, patched at the elbows, and his boots were caked with mud, the soles flapping as he shuffled forward. His face was gaunt, his dark hair matted under a battered hat. He carried a single sack slung over his shoulder, and his eyes darted nervously, as if he expected the ground to swallow him. The crowd's whispers turned to snickers. "That's her husband," someone muttered. Clara's stomach twisted, not from shame, but from the sudden realization that this man looked like he'd walked through hell to get here. She stepped forward, ignoring the stares, and extended her hand. "Elias Kane?" Her voice was steady, though her heart raced. He froze, then nodded, his eyes meeting hers for the first time. They were hazel, flecked with gold, and carried a depth of sorrow she recognized too well. "I'm Clara Hensley," she said. "Welcome to Willow Creek." He hesitated, then took her hand, his grip surprisingly firm despite his frail appearance. "Ma'am," he said softly, I ain't much to look at, but I'll work hard for you." His voice cracked, and Clara saw the weight of his words, not just a promise, but a plea. The first challenge came before they even left the station. Amos Reed, the town's wealthiest rancher and a man who'd long coveted Clara's land, sauntered over, his boots gleaming. "Clara, this the best you could do," he sneered, eyeing Elias like he was vermin. "You'd be better off selling me that farm than tying yourself to this beggar." The crowd tittered, but Clara's eyes blazed. "My choices ain't your business, Amos," she said sharply. Elias stood silent, his shoulders hunched, but Clara noticed his fists clench. She took his arm, guiding him toward her wagon. "Let's go home," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. It was her first act of defiance, and it wouldn't be her last. The farm was a half-hour ride from town, and the silence between them was heavy at first. Clara broke it, asking about his journey. Elias spoke haltingly, revealing bits of his story. He'd been a carpenter in Philadelphia, married once, but his wife and child had died in a fire that also claimed his workshop. Penniless and broken, he drifted west, taking odd jobs until her ad gave him a flicker of hope. "I ain't got much left," he admitted, staring at the passing fields. "But I got hands that can work and a heart that's still beating." Clara listened, her own grief stirring. She didn't pity him, she understood him. Life on the farm tested them both. Elias was true to his word, rising before dawn to mend fences, chop wood, and tend the crops. But his body was weak from years of hunger, and the first week, he collapsed while hauling water from the creek. Clara found him, pale and trembling, and dragged him to the cabin, where she nursed him with broth and blankets. "You're no good to me dead," she said, her tone gruff but her hands gentle. Elias smiled faintly. "Ain't nobody cared if I lived or died in a long time." That moment marked a shift. Clara began to see not just his frailty, but his grit, his quiet determination to prove himself. The townsfolk, however, were relentless. Rumors spread that Elias was a conman, a drifter who'd leave Clara high and dry. Amos fueled the gossip, cornering her at the general store to offer a better deal for her land. "That man's nothing but trouble," he said. Clara's patience snapped. "He's more man than you'll ever be, Amos Reed." Her words spread like wildfire, and while some admired her loyalty, others saw it as foolishness. Clara didn't care. She saw Elias's worth in the small things, the way he carved a new handle for her favorite axe, the way he hummed old hymns while working, the way he listened when she spoke of Thomas, never judging her lingering grief. A winter brought the next challenge. A blizzard buried the farm, and the barn roof caved under the snow's weight. Clara and Elias worked side by side to save the livestock, their breath clouding in the freezing air. One night, as they warmed by the fire, Elias confessed his fear. "I ain't never had nobody rely on me since I lost them." "What if I fail you, Clara?" She looked at him, his face lit by the flames, and saw not just a man in rags, but a soul as scarred and hopeful as her own. "You're here, Elias," she said. "That's enough." It was then she realized she didn't just need him, she cared for him. Spring arrived, and with it, a turning point. Elias, now stronger, built a new barn with timber he'd felled himself. The townsfolk began to notice the farm's revival, the fields greener, the fences sturdy. Clara and Elias grew closer, sharing quiet moments over coffee, laughing over small mishaps. One evening, as they watched the sunset, Elias took her hand. "Clara, I came here with nothing. You gave me a home, a purpose. I love you." Tears pricked her eyes. She'd fought her feelings, afraid of betraying Thomas's memory, but she knew now that love wasn't a betrayal, it was a gift. "I love you too," she whispered. Their wedding was simple, held in the town church with a handful of supporters. The crowd from the platform was there, some with softened hearts, others still skeptical. Clara wore her mother's dress, and Elias, in a borrowed suit, stood tall despite his nerves. When they exchanged vows, Clara's voice rang clear, "I see your worth, Elias Kane, and I choose you." The words silenced the doubters, and even Amos, lurking at the back, left without a word. Years later, the farm thrived, a testament to their partnership. Clara and Elias never had children, but their home was filled with love, laughter, and the occasional stray dog Elias couldn't resist. The townsfolk, once scornful, now tipped their hats to the couple who defied their judgment. Clara often thought back to that day at the platform, when a man in rags stepped into her life. She'd seen his worth when no one else did, and together, they'd built something beautiful. As the sun sets on Willow Creek, picture Clara and Elias on their porch, hands clasped, watching the fields they'd tamed together. Their story isn't just about love, it's about seeing beyond appearances, about second chances, about the courage to build a life from ashes. So, viewer, what's the worth you see in someone today? Who's waiting for you to believe in them? Take that chance. It might just change everything.